Sorry about all the shaking, but it makes more sense for me to carry it because I'm trying to get done. But that looks pretty good. The rest is paint chips. Behind the wheels and the back of the vehicle usually have more tar than really anywhere else. And she has done a real good job of not parking under trees, so we really don't have a sap problem. So this car is going to clean up real fast. So I'm going to keep working, but I've almost got one side done. This happens to your clay bar because there's so much oil down here at the bottom. You have to knead that out. And at a certain point, you're going to have to go to a new clay bar. This one's getting pretty close. It's starting to turn gray instead of white. So there are specks everywhere on the back. Now you'd say, well, why would there be tar back here? Well, the aerodynamics carries the tar that's flying through the air, and it makes it attached to the back of the vehicle. Remember, don't use too much of the solution, but just enough so that your clay bar doesn't stick. And you just rub lightly, especially back here. Stuff comes off pretty quickly. But I gotta put this down to get work done. On the outside, don't forget to wash the inside of your windows and dry them so they don't smear. They won't fog up as fast if you do that. We're going to use new finish on this white vehicle, and the less is better than more because it causes a lot of dust, and it's harder to get off if you get it too thick. And then I'll use a topper on that later, which I'll explain. But there's no need for a paint correction using a buffer on a white vehicle because you can't see any swirl marks in the paint, even if there was any. And I'm sure there is, but I just don't see them with white. Now, if you're talking about black or a dark blue or red, you're probably going to need to do a paint correction if you're particular. And that's not needed on white, and that's one of the big pluses of white. When you get a dirty spot on your clay bar, which I've changed bars because the other one wasn't any good, you pull it apart, you fold it back on itself, and then you just keep pulling it apart. That's called, I call it kneading. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but you can see that looks real clean, except for right there. This side is real clean. So this is the side I'm gonna work with. I really can't emphasize enough getting the paint exactly the way you want it before you wax it, because if you have a water spot, you'll wax that water spot in. If you have bugs, you'll actually wax them into the paint, and they'll be harder to get off. So you want that paint to be the way you want it to look before you wax. And that's the most important part, prep. Really good paint prep. A couple things. When you're done using your clay bar, put it in a plastic bag and seal the bag and wrap it around so that it doesn't dry out, because the clay will dry out if it's not sealed up. The second thing is we did fill the paint with the chips with this touch-up paint that goes with the VIN of the car. I use a piece of duct tape and I wrap around the sides here so that it doesn't dry out, because this stuff is not cheap. Paste wax, or liquid wax in this case, that is white, it will often hide some of your spots that were chips that were small, as when you buff it off, it just stays in there. So I always suggest using a white wax for a white car. As far as applicators go, I love these sponge applicators for cars that are very sensitive, like a black car or a blue or a red. This terry cloth one is very, very soft, which I'm going to use it today. You want to wet this down, wring it out good before you start your waxing, as the directions on the back of the panel say to do. And we're going to just do a small area at a time, and don't get ahead of ourselves because it's real hard to get off once it dries. But this vehicle is ready to go. Most of the chips are gone. It looks really nice for a 2013. It's my daughter's college car, so it's done very well and held up very well for taking it to school. And she has been helping. Off the wax, I'm going to use this really soft new microfiber towel, and then I'm going to finish off with this super soft plush to get the dust and any extra stuff off that I might have missed. But soft towels are very, very important so that you don't add damage to the paint. I do want people to understand that I just take one shot, I say what I'm going to say, and I do what I'm going to do, and I don't look back at it and re-edit it. Just get it done, because this is a lot of my time, and I don't want to spend 4 days editing and redoing and take all day to wax this car. I want to get it done. So keep that in mind when you look at the video. It's one shot. Whatever happens, happens. Something important. This is the car wash that I use, and I've tried a lot of different ones. It's probably one of the best ones if you're not using a foam cannon or something fancy. But just for a basic wash and a good clean, this is the best wash that I have found, and I've tried a lot of them. But if you're going to use a foam cannon, then that's a whole different topic that I'll get to. Well, we're moving right along. One of the things I always suggest to people while they've got their vehicle clean and the first wax done is to go ahead and wax surfaces that take a lot of brunt twice. So the front end, the hood, the top of the car, I'm definitely going to wax twice. And I'm probably going to finish with some kind of detailer that's super slick on the front as well, so that and the mirrors, so that the bugs come right off. But when you got it clean, you might as well hit it twice and get a good full wax that doesn't miss any areas. And remember, don't park under trees to keep your interior cool, because as soon as you see it on the glass, you need to come home and wash that vehicle before that sap gets too hard. So that's my another practical tip. I've got this thing loaded full of information. Hopefully somebody can take something home from this video and use to better their car detailing. If you can find a shady place to wax your vehicle, that's best. If the heat is high, like right now it's 85 degrees outside and things are drying really fast, you don't do more than a panel. You do one panel and you wipe it off. If it's wintertime and things aren't drying, and you can tell as you start to get used to it, if things aren't drying, then you can do a whole side and then turn around and start taking off the first on, first off type of attitude. But in this heat of the summertime, one panel, that's it. So the inside of the windows still need to be cleaned, and the interior. But we have the first coat on, and we'll get the second coat in a bit. One of the things I'm going to do behind the wheels is I'm going to put this on, which is super slick, and it should allow the oil and stuff to be removed faster. I'm also going to put it on the front end, which should allow the bugs to be removed easier. You know, definitely 2 coats of wax you want on your flat surfaces, because bird droppings and such will eat through that. The idea of waxing a vehicle is that the wax degradates when harsh chemicals and things get on the vehicle, instead of your clear coat taking the brunt of the problem and then causing marks. So that's the idea of wax, and so that's why the top of the vehicle gets double coat. I also want to use this to help things come off easier. And the one thing I left off at the very beginning, I do make sure my bucket is 100% clean. I even have a grit guard in the bottom of my bucket. And sometimes I even use two, if the car's real dirty, I'll use 2 buckets, 1 bucket with water just to rinse my wash mitt out in, and then go back to the bucket with the soap in it. But I rarely use the 2 bucket method. But anyway, if you have questions, comments, please comment below. Please hit subscribe. Please ring that bell, and I will continue on here. But as I said, we're going to spray all of the area behind the wheel so that will be slicker and tar won't stick to it. Even down here at the bottom, we're going to do that and then take that off. So we'll get back to you in a bit. Okay, so we started off, we washed with the Turtle Wax, Zip Wax. We then clay barred the vehicle with clay bar and the quick detailer mist that goes along with the kit. We then fixed as many spots as we could that were chipped, and we then waxed with the new finish. Now it says no rubbing or buffing. None of these products do exactly as they claim. You definitely have to buff. I have a number of microfiber towels that I used and cotton terry cloth towels I used to wash. I have this final buffing rag I like to use. I sprayed the ice detailer on the front of the vehicle and behind the wheels to help keep down the work later on. I used a bucket with a grit guard in the bottom so that when the dirt goes to the bottom of the bucket and the rag does not pick up the dirt. My bag for my bucket for my washing of cars is only used for washing of cars. There's no other chemicals, dirt, rocks, etc. Nothing else in there. I also use this for the tires to scrub them up a little better. And the number of rags I used was a full load of laundry because I change my rags often. So that's what we did, and here is the car. It looks great. It still needs the interior windows cleaned, but it shines. It looks good.